Hello, I'm Michael Davis. I'm a Spanish lawyer. I've been in practice for over 25 years. In fact, we started in 1996. Okay, I've handled hundreds and thousands of conveyances over the years. And what I'm going to give you in this video is an explanation of what to expect and how it all works with the conveyancing process here in Spain. I'm going to explain it as simply and in the most practical way possible, so that you can use this as a guideline to know what to expect if you go ahead and purchase in Spain. The first thing I'd like to start off with is to say that buying a property in Spain can be done 100% safely. Okay, it's just that the system needs to be used correctly, and if you do, you'll be fine. Okay, so when you buy a property in Spain, the first thing I'd like to have a little mention about, because we do handle lots of inheritance work, is mention that when you purchase, understand that not all regions of Spain are the same. And I'm not referring to the fact that in the Valencia region there's better paellas, and in the Ibiza there are better. It's better for people that love boats. I'm talking about inheritance tax. Inheritance tax is not the same in all the regions of Spain. Some are very favourable, especially to spouse and descendants, mainly Andalucía. Baleares is quite good as well, but then the Valencia region is slightly worse, and then there are regions that are worse still. So if inheritance tax is important to you, you're a certain age, and especially if your estate's going to be large, book a consultation about inheritance tax in the different regions. We offer a consultation to discuss this, and by all means, give us a call. So let's jump in now to the actual conveyancing process. So the first thing is going to be that I advise to start investigating the choosing of a lawyer. Okay. Unlike inheritance, that lawyers can handle things all over Spain. For example, we handle inheritance work all over Spain. With conveyancing, to be close to the action is a plus. Okay, not essential, but it is a plus. I won't go into the ins and outs of why, but it is important, I think, to understand this. In our particular case, for example, we like to keep our conveyancing work here to Andalucía, relatively near to our offices in Marbella and in Oaxaca. So the first thing is concentrate on lawyers that are relatively close to where you're going to buy the property. So when we choose a lawyer, which is a very important step, very important thing to do, my main word of advice, we've done a whole video, an article on this. If you look at the notes down below, you'll see a little article on how we recommend that you choose a lawyer. But I will say, just like a good rule of thumb is, don't go exclusively by the lawyer and use the lawyer recommended by the estate agents. Not necessarily bad; it could end up okay, but it's just that the reason you're hiring a lawyer is as insurance in cases of something wrong with the property, and you want the lawyer to be able to tell you not to purchase if necessary. So going on from there, let's take the first step. So you're going to need a series of things to buy the property in Spain. You're going to need to probably issue a power of attorney to your lawyer. Not in 100% of the cases, but normally most of us work by power of attorney. It's much simpler and more straightforward. So the power of attorney, the lawyer will draw up for you, and you can sign it at a local, you can have it witnessed by a notary locally in Spain. Or if that's not possible and you're already back in the UK, the solicitor can draw up a dual column document to be signed in the UK, even though there's a bit more work involved and it's a bit more expensive, because then it has to be witnessed by a notary in the UK, and it has to have the Hague's apostille affixed and then sent back to the lawyer in Spain. That power of attorney will normally cover at least the following things: the request of the NIE numbers, the opening of the bank account, and the purchasing of the property. So once you've found the property that you like, typically the estate agent is going to ask you to reserve the property with a €3,000 reservation. If you've already got the lawyer lined up, have a word with him before handing over the €3,000. It's a good thing, because he can tell you probably straight off the bat whether there's something, if there's anything. The agent is a normal, trustworthy agent, etc. He'll know his area and know who he's dealing with. After you've handed over the €3,000, the solicitor will request all the paperwork from the seller's lawyer, and he'll ask for the copy of the title deed, all the service bills, all the normal things, and he'll do all the basic searches. And in the meantime, he will start preparing the deposit contract. The deposit contract is the contract that establishes all the conditions of the transaction, the no later than completion date, the price of the property, whether it's furnished, unfurnished, all the conditions. Before signing the deposit contract, the solicitor is going to do the necessary searches. When he's happy, he will organise the signing of the 10% deposit contract, and at that point you'll have to hand over 10% minus the €3,000 that has been handed over previously. You must never do this. By this stage, you must have the lawyer lined up and looking into everything for you. So between the reservation and the final completion, which is the signing of the title deed at the notary, the lawyer is going to do all the searches. He's going to request your NIE number, he's going to open up your bank account and have everything ready for the completion. Before the completion, you'll need to pay, because the 10% you'll be able to pay directly from your account in the UK, or whatever other country, directly to the account of the seller's lawyer, the seller, or the agent. That will all be decided by your lawyer. But the money for the actual completion needs to come to your Spanish bank account that either you or the lawyer using the power of attorney has opened up for you. On the date that the property is completed, your lawyer will order a last-minute search certificate that will appear at the notary just before signing, so that he can check to make sure that nothing has changed since he did the original searches in the property register. If the property had a mortgage, which is perfectly possible, then your lawyer will make sure that the amount that's due to the mortgaging company is deducted from the purchase price and paid to the mortgaging bank, and only the equity paid over to the seller. Okay, and normally the bank will send along their representative to the notary to pick up his banker's draft, even though there are other ways of doing this as well, which I won't go into detail, but your lawyer will know how to control that all this happens safely. The other thing that your lawyer will do is, if the seller is a non-resident, he will organize it so that you retain 3% of the sales price and do not pay it over to the seller, because when a non-resident sells, the buyer is responsible that at least 3% of the property price is paid into the tax office on behalf of the seller's capital gains tax. Otherwise, you'd be responsible for that amount. But your lawyer will organise that. He will pay over 97% of the price at completion. That 3% will be held in your bank account or in your lawyer's account, and he will pay that directly to the tax office on behalf of the seller. So after we complete at the notary, it's time to pay for all the taxes and fees. So regarding the cost of purchasing a property in Spain, it varies. It varies from one region to another. Why? Because transfer tax is not the same throughout Spain. In Andalusia, we have a reduced rate. It's 7%. Regardless of the value of the property. But in places like the Valencia region, it is 10%. Okay, so that's why if you're sending out requesting budgets, etc., make sure, and they're giving you a total, make sure that the lawyer's aware of which region of Spain you're going to purchase, because the taxes are different. So if it's a second-hand property and you're purchasing the property in the region of Andalusia, which is where I am, I like to say that all the taxes and fees will normally come to around 10%. If it's a high-value property, in other words, above 500,000, it will normally be less than 10%. If the property is less than €200,000, it can be more than 10%. But roughly 10%, you won't be too wrong. Okay. If the property is new, then you don't pay the transfer tax. Instead, you pay VAT. VAT is the same all over Spain on property. It's 10%. Okay. Above the VAT, you have to pay a small document tax, which does vary from region to region. In Andalusia, it's 1.2, and in other regions, it's a bit more. Okay, so on new properties, the total tax and fees will come to more than 10%. So second-hand properties in Andalusia, 10%. So there's also to take into account, even though it's exceptional, here in Andalusia, and I'm going to keep this now to Andalusia because every region has got their own little system, and we only handle conveyancing in Andalusia. It's also possible, exceptionally, that there are some reduced deals for transfer tax in certain special conditions. For example, investors that are going to buy and resell the property, if they set themselves up in a certain way tax-wise, they can get away with only paying 2% transfer tax. You'll need to speak to your lawyer about this, to us or anybody else, to see if you qualify. Likewise, there are certain municipalities in Andalusia that the regional government considers that they're in risk of losing population. So in those particular municipalities, and we've got the list here in the office, it's public information, there is an extraordinary reduced rate of transfer tax, trying to incentive people to purchase in those municipalities. There's another exemption for large families buying properties. There are various exceptions, but in general, you'll pay 7% transfer tax. So when would all those taxes and fees be due? Well, each lawyer does it a different way. In our particular case, we always request a retainer at the beginning when the client hires us, and the rest of the taxes and fees are due as an approximation when we complete at the notary. That's when the property becomes yours, when you receive the keys. It then takes us about a month and a half to make all the payments and obtain final registration. So expect that about 2 months after the lawyer completes for you at the notary, that all your documents will be available with all the different invoices paid on your behalf. Most lawyers, and this is important, most lawyers have someone in the office that will also take care of the smaller but also important things, because if they're not done, it can get messy. And that is to organize the changeover of electricity, the water, the rates, the rubbish, the community of owners, and sometimes a gas contract. You want to ask your lawyer to take care of that as well. We don't like doing it, but it's a necessary. And in our case, we have someone in the office that deals with this and takes care of it, so that when you move over to Spain, you don't have to worry about it. That all those services just set up by direct debit against the account that's been opened in your name. Now, something that's very, very important, and especially for me, because we do lots of inheritance work, is I can't insist enough. If you buy a property in Spain, you must make a Spanish will, okay? Do it with the lawyer that handled the conveyance for you, or do it with someone that specializes in inheritance like us. A will is not expensive, but if you're a foreigner buying a property in Spain, you really must do a Spanish will. And make sure that on the Spanish will, you comply with Directive 650/2012, which is the choice of law, that you choose English law to avoid the Spanish system of obligatory heirs. It sounds a little bit complicated, don't worry. Just your conveyancing lawyer will be able to inform you about this, or otherwise call us and we can prepare the will for you. Wills and inheritance we do handle all over Spain, unlike the actual conveyancing that we don't like to handle them. We're legally allowed to, but we don't like to handle conveyancing outside of Andalusia, except for with the odd exception. So the wills, basically the lawyer will give you some forms to fill in. He'll have a chat with you, talk about inheritance tax, talk about the different advantages and disadvantages. We've done other videos, lots of other videos on making wills and inheritance, but this is a very important thing for you to do. Okay, so at the end of this complete process, you should be handed the following documents, okay? So you should have at least either copy or the original. That doesn't matter. Sometimes you may choose to leave them with your lawyer if he offers this service, or sometimes not. But you must have at least copy or original title deed. That's the document called escritura. And you will also have copies, all the documentation to do with the changing of the service, electricity, water, rates, rubbish, and community of owners. You should also have copy of your Spanish wills. These don't necessarily have to be signed copies, because very often notaries don't issue signed copies of the will, but they issue a document with a issue the wills with a document number on them, and that is the indicative that the will is signed and safely registered. Okay, in Spain, all wills are registered in the central register in Madrid, and they're absolutely safe, but you need to have a copy of the will with the document number on it. So you said the title deed, the documentation to do with the services, and your Spanish wills. You should also obviously have your account that will have been set up, and we always recommend that by this point you make sure that you've set up internet banking, because otherwise it's going to be very annoying for you to handle things from the UK. So that's the end of the conveyancing process. So what are your obligations going forward? Okay, well, this depends on whether you remain a non-resident or you become a resident. If you remain a non-resident, then if everything has been set up correctly by your lawyer regarding direct debits, your only ongoing obligation is going to be to pay your non-resident hypothetical income tax every year. Okay, ask your lawyer how that can be done, but that needs to be organized every year by you, and it cannot simply be set up by direct debit. If you become a resident, things are a bit more. So that's if you're a non-resident and do not rent out your property. If you do rent out your property, ask your lawyer, because things are a bit more complex regarding how you have to do the declarations. If, on the other hand, you decide to become a resident of Spain, there's a bit more involved. If you earn more than a certain income a year anywhere in Spain, you will have to make an annual income tax declaration between May and June each year. You will need to speak to an accountant or speak to your lawyer and ask them if they offer this service. In our particular case, we don't offer the service of tax declaration for residents, but some lawyers do, some lawyers don't. We don't, so an accountant or a lawyer will be good for this. In addition to your annual income tax declaration, depending on the region of Spain where you are, where you have the property, you may have wealth tax to deal with. In Andalusia, there is no wealth tax for residents or for non-residents. But be aware that there is a new tax, like a wealth tax, that the government has created for anyone with assets above 3 million euro. But remember, there's if there's two of you and you own a jointly owned property of even 5 million euro, you wouldn't qualify. So not very many people will qualify for that tax. But wealth tax, for example, in Valencia does exist above 700,000 euro, and other regions as well. So if you're not in Andalusia, ask about wealth tax. If you're a resident, you also have to declare assets abroad if you have more than 50,000 euro outside the country. You need to make a declaration of assets every year. I think it's in March, the end of March, April, I can't remember exactly. Again, we don't do these declarations. You need to have an accountant to do them for you. That's only if you're a resident. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope you found the video useful, and if you did, I hope to see you in another video. Thank you for watching.